Thank you, everybody, and thanks to all the sponsors. Good morning, and what a beautiful day in Elgin. I want to thank Molly Center for, she's taken care of my graphics and behind me, and going to give you something to look at other than my face, which should be a blessing for you. I'm going to talk about a couple of things today, and I think that I'm going to try to stay on topic, but important things. It's about building a foundation. And as part of my belief as mayor, that our job as a city is not to make sure that businesses are successful. We can't do that. But we can make sure that they have a foundation to move forward and a solid foundation underneath them. A city needs the same thing. And the city to grow has to have a strong foundation. I'm going to be talking a lot about that today. And we are on a great track to make sure that this city moves forward. We're going to compare Elgin to other communities. So we have, it's not just us. I'm going to preach to the choir. I want you to understand there are other communities around us. How do we compare with them? How do we feel about ourselves to make sure that we are on a right track? I'll begin with Elgin's finances. Elgin's finances this year, and as we talked about in our recent budget, are based on 3 R's: diversified revenue, reserve funds, and riverboat. The pie chart you see shows the diversified revenues that we initiated a few years ago. We have a flat tax this year, a flat property tax levy, and we'll continue to do that as long as we can. We like the fact that this has been, the diversified revenue has led to 7 consecutive years of a flat levy. One of the things that just recently happened, we issued some bonds. We got a AAA bond rating, and I believe it's for the 9th consecutive year that we have a AAA bond rating. Very unusual for a community to have that kind of a record. 75% of the AAA bond rated communities in the United States are city manager run and small mayor. So I think that's an important fact, that it takes good management to do that. I'm going to be talking about our city excels in the amount of and the people that we have and the quality of our people. When we look at revenue and we look at our finances, we often look at it and say, well, we have a revenue stream, we have done this and done that. I look at it from the other side as well. What are our expenditures? To do this, we have to have a balanced budget. We do that every year. We're going to have a balanced budget as by law. Will be done by the middle of the month. But one of the things I think is important for us as well is to look at what our debt load is. And that's something that we haven't talked a lot about. And compare Elgin to other communities around us. For the last 10 years, our debt load has been reduced from about $700 per capita down to $635. How does that compare to some of the communities around us? St. Charles, for example, their per capita debt load is a little over $4,000 per person. It all depends on how we run our businesses and how we do things. So I believe it at home. I believe in having a low debt load at home. I believe it for a city as well. It's important. And to compare it to the state of Illinois, the state of Illinois' per capita debt load for teacher pensions alone is $6,000 per person. Huge amount of money. 56% of the cities in the area have a higher debt load than us. So I think it's really indicative of the way that we've managed the money over the last 10 years and what the future is going to bring for us. Move on to economic development. We have some photos behind me of some ribbon cuttings, both large and small. We focus on everything. We focus on all businesses of all sizes, from 300,000 square foot spec buildings down to the smallest restaurant that comes to Elgin. I go to a lot of ribbon cuttings, one of the best parts of the job. I always get a free snack. And so we're looking at, and we try to grow. We have strong growth across the city. We are one of the fastest growing, as pointed out, we're one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Illinois. Our finances probably put us in a range where we may be the most fiscally responsible city in the state of Illinois. And I'm not saying that facetiously, I believe that. I think we are probably at the top, in the top tier, no doubt. And that's because of the way that the city has been run financially for the last 20 or 30 years. It takes a long time to reach that level. We have a diversified economy. We have, we're not focused on one business. I think we learned our lesson in the 1950s and 1960s with the Elgin National Watch Factory. One of the things I'd like to talk about is in the late 1950s, Elgin had a population of about 35,000 people. 5,000 of those people worked at the Elgin National Watch Factory. When they left, this community went in the dumper. It devastated us for decades. Took us decades to climb back out of that hill, but we finally made it. We're back to the point where we are one of the leaders in the state. The Elgin Development Group leadership is outstanding in bringing new opportunities to Elgin and taking Elgins to prospective investors. They go out, they recruit, they bring people, they spread the message of what Elgin is like, what Elgin is. More than just a city that's finances, we're a city with a heart. I have people come and visit me, and they ask, what's Elgin like? So I tell them I think that Elgin is probably one of the best communities you're going to find. It's a diversified community. I don't talk a lot about the finances to them. I talk about the quality of life. When you bring your business to the city of Elgin, your employees and your children will have a wonderful place to live, grow up, and go to school. And that sells as much as anything to a new business coming here. We have direct foreign investors that came and discussed about moving their business to the United States. And I talked about you're sending some of your employees 10,000 miles to come to the city of Elgin. What do you expect from us? And what do you want to see? And those are the kind of things we talk about. They'll figure out if they're going to make money here. They do that part. We fill in the blanks for them. We try to tell them that this is a quality of life community for you and a quality of life for your employees. One of the things that we need to focus on, and we're going to focus on, continue to focus on, is education. How important it is to this community. All the way from Judson University down to Eppel, where we're teaching 3-year-olds how to read. U46 has developed a program called Pathways. I went and through the Alignment Collaborative, we had a discussion on the Pathways program. And it's an opportunity for young people to look at jobs and look at the world differently than they may have. One of the slides that you see up here is a visual of an expo that we do in September. We take 3,000 8th graders and let them meet business leaders and talk about what it's like to work at a certain facility, to work in medical, to work for a city, to become a city employee, to become a police officer, and give them an opportunity to find out what the world holds for them. I did a presentation to the U46 board probably a year ago, and I had gone to I went to Ellis Middle School in Elgin and talked to the young people there in a history class, and looked out at the group, largely minority group, and talked about what the mayor does, what kind of programs do you have. I talked about the Alignment Collaborative and what it does. We're bringing options, and I said, you know, if you can't go to university, that's not the end of the world when you're 18 years old. There are jobs out here for you. And when I looked out at that audience of about 50 young people, 13, 14 years old, I saw hope in their face. I think that kids were giving up. They felt the way that schools were directing them to go to university. They felt if they couldn't go, why do I need to try harder and why do I need to study? Well, now they have a reason. When they did the presentation on Pathways, some of the parents spoke to us that were just as part of U46. One of the employees from the library said that the kids are excited about something, about education, and having a chance to look at something different in their life and a way to move forward. And I think that speaks volumes for what this community does. We have over 200 organizations volunteering and people volunteering with Alignment Collaborative. And you know, we can't say enough about moving these people, young people forward and creating jobs. Alignment Collaborative came from conversations with people like you. I sat down, some of you are sitting out in the audience, sat around a table at what we call the President's Council with about 20 business leaders. And at that time, the City Council had said that we need to talk about education. What does education mean to a community, and how do we do it? And I agonized over that. Well, what does that have to do with me? We have a school district. We have Elgin Community College. We have Judson University. That's their job. I thought, and I asked them, I said, what can we do for you? What can I do to make your job better? And they had one common answer for all 20 people, all those business leaders. We need an educated workforce. That's what alignment does. It's going to direct young people, give them opportunities to look for jobs. Does that mean that their college career is over with? No, it does not. We're standing inside of one of the greatest community colleges in the United States. This college is larger than 50% of the other universities in the state of Illinois. The Gates Foundation found that this college graduates more Latinx students than any other college in the United States. I think Dr. Sam and the staff here deserve a hand for this. When you graduate from high school and you find that you have a job that you like and a career that you like, does not mean your education ends. You can go back and you can polish the rough edges on yourself. And that's what Elgin Community College will do. And that prepares young people to move on. They get their education and continuing education. One of the things that is important, and I always try to explain this the best way that I can. I'm an avid reader, have been all my life. And the Early Partnership for Learning, Elgin's Early Partnership for Learning, EPL, teaches 3-year-olds how to read, and young people how to read, and gives them opportunities. We have a couple little chairs and some books in the lobby at City Hall. I was down there the other day. We had a group of kids coming in. They were going to did a tour with the police department and the fire department. The kids were fighting over the chairs to sit down and read in the books and look at these books. They were 2nd and 3rd graders. How important is that? If I try to do this correctly. When you're 3 years old and we're trying to get people to be to 3rd grade, by the time you get to 3rd grade, you have to learn to read by the time you get to 3rd grade. By the time you get to 3rd grade, you read to learn. If you can't read by 3rd grade, you start falling behind. And then it becomes more and more difficult to catch up. I told Tony Sanders one time, he startles me once in a while. I wish he was here because I like to poke at him once in a while. But he startles me once in a while, and education for people is extremely important. And the criminal justice system in the United States is based on the reading skills of 3rd graders. That should scare everybody. If a young person can't read by the time they get to 3rd grade, their chances of failure go up dramatically. We have a broad-based education system in the city of Elgin. We have parochial schools, we have academies, we have private schools that feed our students and give them opportunities and options for any kind of education. We're working together to provide the best education we can. I think our vision should be that the children that are born today in the city of Elgin will be the best educated young people that this country can produce. That should be our goal. Housing in the city of Elgin has had its ups and downs over the last few years. The last few years we've been a leader in housing starts, new homes. And we've been one of the top 4 or 5 communities in the entire state. And there's been a shift. It's been a shift towards rentals. And the city of Elgin in the last year and a half has added 500 new housing units, rental units. But there's also a little bit of a change there. We have about 250 market rate apartments out on Randall Road, but we also added 50 apartments for people with learning disabilities. We also added 50 apartments. We're going to add 50 apartments through a cooperative effort with Hanover Township on Willard Avenue for people that have mental disabilities and have mental illness. The state of the art now is the federal government will fund some of these things if somebody's in residence. So there will be somebody that's from AID for the property on Larkin Avenue. There will be somebody from Ecker will be in residence down on Willard Avenue to help people go to their day-to-day jobs and follow their day-to-day life. That separates Elgin from other communities. Many communities don't want that kind of living, but it makes a big difference for our community because it creates a ripple effect. Creates a ripple effect for everybody. And at all income brackets, it opens up housing and creates opportunities for people. We just completed the renewal and the reconstruction of the Tower building in downtown Elgin. Market rate apartments, 45 market rate apartments. At the corner of Lawrence Avenue and State Street, you may wonder what that big building going up on the corner is. It's going to be senior housing. So we're looking at more targeted housing. And those will add opportunities for people to move up. It doesn't mean that single-family home sales have stopped in Elgin. On McDonald Road, the Ponds of Stony Creek is going to open up, 250 homes. And that will add new housing stock to the city of Elgin. We anticipate that that growth is going to continue. And I anticipate that the people that are renting apartments in the city of Elgin will aspire to own a home here and move forward. Last thing I want to talk about is it's easy to be the mayor of a city when you have quality staff. And I can't find a better staff anywhere in the entire country than the people in the city of Elgin. And I'm talking about all our staff. I'm going to go through them one at a time. We make changes. We do things, and we try to modify what we do to be better all the time. We're adding more code enforcement officers. We feel that there's a need for code enforcement officers. We're adding an extra police officers. We're taking government to the residents. What this community has done that separates us from others, I'll use the Elgin Police Department as an example. They go out and have coffee with people and talk to people in the coffee shops and talk about problems. You bring your problem to the government. You don't have to go to City Hall to do that. We'll come out and visit you. Just met a gentleman yesterday, city manager and I, from DuPage County. Came to the city of Elgin, was talking to one of our employees, and he said that the Elgin Police Department should be the standard for every police department in the state of Illinois. And I agree. They deserve a great hand. The Elgin Fire Department has done outreach for years. We used to do some things when funding was available. We did the smokehouse and go out and teach young people how to deal with a house fire. And times change. But the fire department has not totally left and abandoned that outreach. They went out and put in fire detectors, smoke alarms for people, free. And that's part of what the fire department does. They go out and reach out to people and tell them that we're here to help you, and that's what we do. Elgin's a city that helps. Our Public Works Department. We just went through a tough leaf season. I think the streets are as clean as I've ever seen them at this time of the year. I just met with the deputy mayor from the city of Aurora and we're talking about public works and plowing snow and about salting. One of the things that's going to be a topic for discussion for us in the future is sensible salting. Talked about how we salt and how we changed the way that we do things a few years ago. On Saturday and Sunday, we don't plow snow anymore when it's 1 inch or 2 inches deep. We let it sit. That was a big discussion for us. We were afraid because we were under what I call the Bolandic rule, that we go to pavement, baby. We don't want any problems. We don't want any complaints. And that changed for us a little bit. And we look back and we say, well, we have people coming in for overtime to plow 1 inch of snow, and it didn't make any sense. So we said, let's stop and see what happens. Well, I tell you what happened. I had one complaint. Out of a city of 110,000 people, we had one complaint. So we continue to do that. We continue to salt just at intersections and on hills and trouble spots. The city of Aurora contacted our Public Works Department, and they want to take a look at what we're doing. So Elgin takes a leadership role. We're no longer a follower in this state. We are a leader in what we do, just about every department. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the manager's office. I have to be careful here because they get pretty full of themselves once in a while. And I just have to watch out for them. But they just got through a process where we're talking about a very difficult concept for people. to understand a city budget of over $250 million and where the money comes from. And people have questions. Where's my money go? What do I do? Where does this come from? Where's it going? Where does the money come from? How do you spend it? They went out and they did 3 visits out into the community, 3 or 4, and talked to residents and let them ask those questions. Public outreach is a key part of what we're doing with the city of Elgin. And that is part of our transparency effort, part of our vision as a community that we take government to the people. When I became mayor, the first thing I did, I started to walk with neighborhoods. And they got to see the mayor. Some people never saw the mayor. So here he is. I'm just a guy. I'm out there in shorts or whatever. I'm just walking the neighborhood. And we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. We talk about the Cubs. We'll talk about the White Sox. And it's just about getting out and bringing government to people. I've talked about everything that's good. And there are a lot of great things going on in this city. But we have some challenges. We need to define what diversity and discrimination is. I see discrimination every day. I see people cross the street when they see somebody that has a mental illness. I see people that look at a homeless person and they are disgusted by him. We have to look at homelessness as a symptom and not an illness. Homelessness is the result of any number of different things: addictive behavior, mental illness. Tony Sanders, again, he's not here, but told me a few years ago, they have hundreds of young people. Of the 44,000 students in U46, there are hundreds of young people that are homeless, classified as homeless. So this spreads all over. We need to address the homeless issue, but we need to address the underlying causes. Otherwise, we're still going to have homeless people. That's a challenge for all of us. And it takes money to do that, and we have to make that investment into this community to fix that. Water as a resource. When I look at things around the country and we look at the things that each community or each state has as a resource, one of our great resources is our water supply. We need to protect that. So when I talk about sensible salting, we have I'm chairman of a committee that's the Northwest Water Planning Association for 5 counties. And one of the issues we're going to be talking about is sensible salting, because salt on roads and in parking lots is beginning to contaminate our drinking water supplies. This is a long-term project. We need to make certain that that is something that is not going to interfere with the growth of our city. The cost will go up exponentially if we have to try to remove salt out of our drinking water supplies. So we need to start planning ahead. We need to take a different approach. We just had the village of Bartlett moved away from us and not selling water for us. I've never been as a big proponent of selling water as a business for the city of Elgin. It should be an asset for us. It's an asset for a business that comes here, that we have a consistent water supply. We need to protect that for the future. Another challenge for us is going to be our parks and recreation deficit. This year it's about $4 million. We're going to have to try to resolve that. We can't keep going on and having that deficit. How are we going to, well, Elgin is one of the unique cities that our Parks and Rec Department is part of the city. We don't have a Parks Department as a Parks Board or a Park District as many communities do. So we fund it through our general fund and through the taxes of the city of Elgin. We're going to need to look at how we're going to address that long term. We have a census coming up. We need people to sign up and be counted to vote. Everybody needs to stand up. We need to count every man, woman, and child in this city. It will dictate how we receive funds for the next 10 years. It will determine what our local representation will look like in Washington. It's a huge part of what our community needs to do, and we have a great team put together to do this, of people that this community can trust. Names that they know and faces that they can trust. That is where we're going to head in 2020. A couple of things I'm going to be proposing and bringing to the City Council. Mayor has the option to bring things forward for discussion for the City Council. After the first of the year, I'm going to have staff explore an ethics ordinance for the City of Elgin. I want to look at the City of Chicago's ethics ordinance. The state of Illinois is going to write an ethics ordinance. I believe that this is something every community should have. Every citizen that pays taxes should have an opportunity to have the best government that they can get. And that's what we're going to provide in the city of Elgin. We're going to make sure that we have quality people working with it. We have quality people working in-house and as elected officials. One of the things that we talked about, and I heard Carol talking about at an event the other day, is about investing locally. And how do we invest locally? And we're seeing a shift. We're seeing money that's being directed away from Elgin businesses through internet sales. And that was her point to be made. One of the things I want to do is bring back a discussion on the local preference for local businesses in the city of Elgin. We have a 3% premium for people that are local. They get a benefit. If they are within 3% of the low bid, they will get it if they're a local business. We haven't used that. Either we get rid of it or let's increase that. And I want to have staff and council look at increasing that local preference. So we hire local people. For people that work on our grants, for people that do work for the city of Elgin, I would like to have more local people become involved because it pays back, and that money resonates through the community a number of times, including the people that work for them, and if they go to Home Depot and buy supplies, that money resonates back through the community and reverberates. In conclusion, I start these speeches, I start setting things aside in June and to prepare for this. And I'm going to quote from the June 22nd Economist magazine. And they had an article, they called it Texifornia. And they talked about two very successful, very different types of economy and government philosophies. California is, their economy is based on high tech and computer technology. They also have one of the highest tax rates in the country. And Texas is based on environment, or energy and environmental wind turbines and energy production. And they have a philosophy of a low tax rate, but they're both successful. They are, I believe, the third, their economy is like, California's economy is like the third largest country in the world. Texas is, I believe, is about 10th. So these are huge economies. I read this and I'm going to read it directly to you because I thought it was important. It stuck with me for 6 months. Demographically, both states are already living America's future. Their non-white populations started to outnumber their white ones long ago. California became a majority-minority state in the year 2000. Texas in 2005. Today, they are both around 40% Hispanic, more than double the national share. With fast-growing, young, and ethnically diverse populations, what California and Texas look like today is what the country will look like in 2050. According to Stephen Klingberg, a professor at Rice University in Houston, states like California and Texas are where the American future is going to be worked out. Both states have vulnerabilities. The key question for California is how much can a state take on, And with Texas, it is about how little a government can give. Elgin is a classic. We are that type of city. Elgin's living what the country is going to be like in 2050. How do we take advantage of that? How do we have a 30-year head start on many of the communities in this country? And how do we take it to our best advantage? We all need to work together to create a foundation that our city will be the standard for economic and social growth throughout the entire state. We'll need to navigate the challenges that we will face, and a strong foundation will make that possible. Elgin is the future of this state. We see it in our growth, and we see it in this diversity in this great city. We have the best of everything. We need to take advantage of that. We need to figure out how that we are going to move forward for the next 30 years and keep ourselves ahead of every other community. Thank you for listening to me.